Hello, buddy. All right. Welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Friday, April the 18th. Of course, this is Good Friday as well for those who celebrate um, Christian aspects of Easter. Let's see. Let's see now. So, of course, we're just waiting for people to come in. Looks like we do have some people in here. So, a friendly reminder, of course, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'll be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. We'll try to answer questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, I guess we have some people here now, so I guess I can talk about what's on tap for tonight. Tonight we're gonna go actually go over four articles, all from MeTV Tunes, all kind of cartoon related. A couple involving some Hanna-Barbara stuff, as well as a couple from Warner Brothers, a couple from Hanna-Barbera, including a cartoon evolution of Daffy Duck. And also find out who gave Daffy Duck his lisp. Alan Reed, the late great Alan Reed, who was the first voice of Fred Flintstone, revealed an unaired Flintstone spinoff. And we're going to also find out why Hanna-Barbera characters are always wearing ties. So some fun stuff tonight. Not doesn't always have to be super serious, right? Getting into the fun, maybe some of the more funner profile type articles. And then of course we're gonna we have some news to go over, as this is WrestleMania weekend as well. So of course we're looking ahead to that. We'll be looking back to last night's Impact, as well as yesterday's Ring of Honor special. We'll be looking ahead to tonight's special episode of Honor Club that was pushed back to. We'll be looking back to last night's AEW Collision, and as I said, we'll be looking ahead to, of course, to the WrestleMania. So then we'll wrap things up, of course, with This Day Needs History. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started? All right, so as always, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. Um, so let's go ahead and get to our first one over here. All right. Cartoon evolution, Daffy Duck. He's not as despicable as he seems. Article published April 16, 2025 by MeTV Doom staff. All right, so there's a couple of sites there of Daffy, like in one of his earliest forms, as well as his picture coming up on the Warner Brothers thing there. So let's look at this. Daffy Duck is a complicated character. He's not like Sylvester and Wile E. Coyote, who are primarily driven by hunger. And he's not playful, and he's not playful prey like Bugs, Roadrunner, and Tweety. And he's certainly not an outright antagonist like Yosemite Sam or Elmer Fudd. Nope. Daffy is his own weird secret third thing. He is good, bad, and often somewhere in the middle. He is wild, zany, and out of control, while also being strategic, sneaky, self absorbed, and overly emotional. He's analytical and opportunistic, but often lacking common sense and tact. He's obscenely selfish, but would probably consider himself a self-preservationist. Self-preservationist. We love him and we hate him, but he always makes us laugh. Each Looney Tunes director changed Daffy a little bit in their own way. Let's take a look at the evolution of everyone's favorite cartoon duck and how he's changed. And I'm sure people will debate that whether it's Daffy or Donald from Walt Disney, who's their favorite cartoon duck. So I do get that, just in case people are going to start saying, well, what about Donald? All right, so Porky's Duck Hunt, 1937. So on April 17, 1937, a legend was born. Daffy Duck joined the Looney Tunes cast in Porky's Duck Hunt. This cartoon was a joint effort between Tex Avery and Bob Clampett. At this point, Porky had been the star of Looney Tunes for a few years. Actually, no, for like 2 years. 2 years. He actually, as we mentioned earlier when we went back over Porky's evolution. He originally started out as a supporting cast member for Beans the Cat, and then eventually just overtook him in terms of popularity. But anyways, so for a couple of years, and they wanted to spin the traditional hunter-prey pairing by having the prey be assertive and unhinged. Most cartoon characters at the time were straight man roles, like Porky Pig and Mickey Mouse, the good guys who could do no wrong and mostly behaved sanely. Now, of course, mind you, this is also the first of many, many cartoons in which Daffy and Porky were teamed up together. As we talked about before when we covered the Porky's evolution, the original voice actor for Porky, Joe Doherty, started after when Porky became the star and the focus of the show. Joe's stuttering actually would get worse, and it would just take too long. They had to actually just have somebody else, be him. Was I think Mel Blanc who took over the role. But then what they also did, as we get into the early 40s there, Porky was paired up with Daffy quite a bit more, and they were like kind of more like sidekicks to each other. So, hey, Vishozo, I see you there. Hi, everybody. Hi, Vishozo. So again, a friendly reminder, if you haven't already, you can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, anything here we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, of course, this whole idea of the zany pair of hunter-prey would also play out later with, like, most notably with Bugs and Elmer Fudd, but also with Elmer and with Bugs and Yosemite Sam as well. So, anyways, this unnamed duck was a true screwball character, wild and unhinged, screeching "woohoo" and jumping around in the water. According to Clampett, quote, at that time, audiences weren't accustomed to seeing a cartoon character do these things. And so, when it hit theaters, it was an explosion. People would leave the theaters talking about this Daffy Duck, unquote. Moving ahead to 1938, of course, Daffy Duck and Egghead, 1938. Now, just a reminder to everybody, of course, from a previous article we covered, Egghead was kind of, I believe, a precursor to Elmer Fudd, as I recall. So, anyway, similarly to Porky's Duck Hunt, this cartoon featured Daffy being hunted by Egghead. Like before, Daffy is a realistically sized duck and much smaller than Egghead. And he has the same wild, zany personality. His gags include honking Egghead's nose, which was common back then, jumping around, including woohoo! And he even sings the song, quote, "The merry-go-round broke down," unquote. While Daffy doesn't lisp while speaking, he does begin to lisp while singing. The only other difference in this cartoon is the animators made the stripe around his neck blue instead of white. And this is the only cartoon where this change happens. Blue instead of white, huh? Oh, yeah, you see that right there. Yeah, all right. Hmm. The new movie had Daffy acting similar to his early appearances, which is weird. Well, maybe they wanted to harken back to those classic days. So that's probably what it might have been. You Ought to Be in Pictures, 1940. This short was groundbreaking in terms of combining live action and animation, but it was also a big moment of growth for Daffy as a character. Okay. Under Fritz Freiling's direction, we began to see Daffy's true personality take form. He is less zany and unhinged, and much more sneaky, strategic, and self-serving. Daffy tricks Porky into quitting his job as a cartoon character, and then when Porky leaves, Daffy says, quote unquote, "Now's my chance." uh, 1941, Drafty Daffy. Oh, yes. Of course, as we get into the whole World War II aspect of it, we start seeing more of these cartoons, of course, these patriotically themed cartoons that many cartoon characters and comic book characters would engage in. All right. Like many of his Looney Tunes compadres, Daffy appeared in many wartime cartoons. Many of these cartoons featured Daffy battling Axis forces, represented by goats and other creatures. While many of Daffy's cartoons focused on beating the enemy, Daffy stands out for highlighting issues affecting everyday people during World War II, namely the draft board. Daffy gets a call from the draft board and panics, hiding and boarding up the house in hopes of dodging the draft. Daffy's self-involved, slightly neurotic personality made him the best fit for this cartoon. Bugs Bunny and Tweety are too brave to dodge the draft. And it's kind of funny because there was a Bugs Bunny cartoon got where Bugs got drafted, and then they realized it was a mistake because they can't draft rabbits into the war. So, whereas Daffy is just the right amount of fearful to make the cartoon work. Daffy Doodles, 1946. I wonder. That one seems familiar. Daffy finally gets a makeover in 1946, nearly 9 years after he premiered. Director Robert McKimson gave Daffy a much needed touch up, choosing to step away from a duck and making him more of an anthropomorphic character. Now, for those of you who may not know what that term means, anthropomorphic just simply means when you basically give animal characters more human characteristics, like being able to stand more straight up, for example. Speaking, doing more human like mannerisms. He also made Daffy taller and rounder, making him the same height as Bugs, Porky, and Elmer, who used to tower over him. McKimson also slightly changed Daffy's personality by attempting to make Daffy as brilliant as Bugs, but still giving him loony moments like he had at the beginning. The Great Piggy Bank Robbery, 1946. This was Bob Clampett's last Daffy cartoon, where Daffy becomes obsessed with Dick Tracy, and through the power of delusion becomes Duck Tracy. I remember this one. This cartoon showed that Daffy provided an entertaining parody of other characters like Sherlock Holmes and the Scarlet Pimpernel. Fun fact: John Krifalsi, creator of Ren and Stimpy, said this was his favorite cartoon and said, quote, "I saw this thing and it completely changed my life. I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen, and I still think it is." Unquote. Nice. 1948. You were never duckier. Does Daffy kill people like Tracy? No, I don't think he actually killed anybody. He did have some. I mean, if I remember if I remember correctly in this cartoon, he there were like a bunch of different villains under this kind of weird madcap type villain. I mean, there was one villain that was actually based on a Dick Tracy villain, but most of them were kind of made up for the short, including like Tickler, who was this like kind of hillbilly looking guy, had a thing for tickling people and said, I know where ducks are ticklish. I know where ducks are ticklish. Ducks are ticklish in the ears." Davy said, "I don't have ears." And then you see him like put the ears on Daffy, and then so it's kind of that kind of zany stuff. Yeah, he didn't kill anybody. I mean, first off, that was what 1946. So the Hays Code as it is today was in full effect. So they would not have been having characters getting killed off in cartoons too much. Or if it was, it would have been something more off screen. But no, I don't think he killed anybody. Anyways. All right, 1948. You were never duckier. You were never duckier highlights Chuck Jones' impact on Daffy's character. In this cartoon, Daffy has to pretend to be a rooster to win $5,000 at the National Poultry Show. This cartoon is considered by many fans to be the turning point for Daffy from being a slightly neurotic screwball to a self-centered, egotistical character. Give me that money! Give me that money! Let's see now. Jones Hunting Trilogy, 1951. So this, I believe, is a set of trilogy. Okay, so let's just read it here. Davy underwent another redesign for Chuck Jones' Hunting Trilogy. In Rabbit Fire, Rabbit Seasoning, and Duck Rabbit Duck, Davy is drawn leaner, scrawnier, and scrappier. In the trilogy, Daffy tries to dupe Elmer Fudd into hunting bugs instead of him. At the beginning of Daffy's career, he was the zany one. He was the disruptor to Porky and Elmer. Now Daffy had someone disrupting his plans, Bugs Bunny. The pairing of Bugs and Daffy as adversaries really brought out Daffy's insecure, jealous side. Which usually devolved back into a core manic behavior by the end of the cartoon. These cartoons also brought us Daffy's signature catchphrase, "You're despicable." Aside from that line, of course, aside from that, that catchphrase, there was also another memorable scene, at least in one of those cartoons, if not all three. It's like the kind of debating going back and forth. It's duck season, it's rabbit season, it's duck season, rabbit season, where you had, of course, Elmer trying to hunt them, of course. Bugs would say no, it's duck hunting season. Daffy would then go back to say no, it's rabbit season. Duck, rabbit, and then Bugs would kind of flip the script on and say rabbit season, and then Daffy would go duck season, and then Bugs would go rabbit season, and Duck said Daffy would go duck season. They'd go back, and initially they're going back and forth, and then and then Daffy ends up going, it's duck season, fire! And then you see him get his face blown off. So yeah, so that's a classic scene from that. Let's see, 1957, Showbiz Bugs. There's another classic kind of tone for these two. As Bugs Bunny's star continued to rise, Daffy as a character developed new traits in response to his rival's success. Now, Daffy was increasingly jealous and unhinged in his pursuit of stealing back the spotlight. Bugs' reaction to Daffy was usually indifferent and mildly amused. Bugs' ability to consistently outsmart Daffy while not reacting to Daffy's emotional outbursts only succeed in making Daffy angrier. It's like Bugs Bunny is Ferris Bueller. Daffy Duck is Cameron Fry. I guess on the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I guess. Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century, 1953. Another time when Daffy, of course, is paired with Porky here. Part of Daffy's special charm is that he fits into both good guy and bad guy roles. Once he became Bugs Bunny's rival, he also became Porky Pig's friend. Their comedic duo made sense, with Porky playing the straight man to emotional Daffy in cartoons like Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century. Of course, the parody being of Buck Rogers in the 24th century, right? See you later, alligator. No, see you later, gladiator. 1968. Daffy's final Warner Brothers cartoon short with See You Later Gladiator with Speedy Gonzales. Speedy and Daffy accidentally get sent back in time to ancient Rome, where they fight a lion in an arena. This cartoon was not well received, but it is the last cartoon to feature classic Looney Tunes characters from the golden age of animation. But yeah, by this point, Warner Brothers had basically they had gone with the Seven Arts shop. They'd gone with like basically DePatie Frayling, who of course also did the Pink Panther cartoons at that time as well. Dave DePatie and Fritz Frayling. Let's see. This cartoon was meant to be the first of a series of time travel cartoons called Time Flies, but the Warner Brothers cartoon division closed after this cartoon. Yeah. Conclusion. The director who loved and saw himself in Daffy the most was Chuck Jones. In his book Chuck-a-Muck, The Life and Times of an Animated Cartoonist, Jones said, quote, Daffy, or in smaller quotes, Daffy has become the spokesperson for the egoist in everyone, but he remains always undaunted by the inevitable requital, the fear of consequences that makes cowards of the rest of us. So while Daffy is selfish and jealous, he is also fearless and daring, which is why we still enjoy his antics today. And you can watch Bugs Bunny and Friends on MeTV Tunes weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 Pacific, and 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, Saturdays at 8 p.m., 7 Central, 5 Pacific, and Sundays at 12 noon, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. So there we go with that one. So now we'll get ready to move on to the next article that we're going to go over here. Let's see. I said we're going to get to 4 articles tonight. Who gave Daffy Duck his lisp? The gist behind the lisp. Article published on April 16, 2025 by MeTV Toon staff. All right, so let's see what's going on here. There's always been something special about Daffy Duck. His voice. Like his fellow Looney Tunes star, Porky Pig, his speech impediment of lisping is a memorable part of his character. But how exactly did Daffy start lisping? He didn't lisp for his first few cartoons, but then the cartoonist at Termite Terrace decided his voice needed to change. His creator, Tex Avery, worried that the wild laughs and constant hoo-hoo from Daffy was becoming stale, and he wanted Daffy to be less of a nut and more of a character who enjoyed giving in to his nuttiness. So it was decided that Daffy should have a lisp, but primary sources from Termite Terrace disagree about what or who inspired Daffy's lisp. According to animator Chuck Davis, in small quotes here, Daffy still needed a voice. In parentheses here, Cal Howard suggested that Leon Schlesinger's lisp, plus Leon's absolute belief that the world owed him a living, kind of funny because that's actually the name of a song that Disney actually came out with. The world owes me a living. um, Made him a perfect prototype for Daffy. Mel Blanc saw no difficulty in marrying Leon's voice to a duck, so the deed was done, and Daffy found a new voice as well as a new personality and acquisitiveness to match Leon's. Unquote. Leon Schlesinger was the producer and founder of Leon Schlesinger Productions, which eventually became the Warner Brothers Cartoon Studio. He was the big boss of all the animators, and he had a prominent lisp. Also worth noting, he was widely, in parentheses, and allegedly considered to be a jerk. But isn't that how most people think their bosses are? Right? Don't most people tend to think their bosses can be jerks at times? Yeah. Anyways, Jones called him, quote, Leon Schlesinger the unready, or Leon the unreasonable, or Leon the unbearable. Take your choice. Any word starting with un will fit Leon, unquote. There are also stories of him making fun of the offices the animators worked in and saying they couldn't sail on his yacht because he didn't want poor people on his boat. Oh boy. Naturally, the animators had a grudge against him, and giving a character a voice and personality that directly made fun of their boss seemed like fair game. As Daffy would say, how despicable. One major source disagrees with the Leon Schlesinger story, Daffy's voice actor Mel Blanc. In his memoir, That's Not All Folks, he offered a more sensible explanation for Daffy's lisp. Seemed to me that such an extended mandible would hinder his speech, particularly on words containing an S sound. Thus, despicable became despicable. Unfortunately for us cartoon drama queens, this makes sense. The type of lisp Daffy has is called a lateral lisp, which is when the air flows from the sides of the mouth instead of through the front. Which would make sense for someone speaking English through a large duckbill. Perhaps Mel Blanc was trying to save face and rise above the slightly mean Schlesinger rumors, but his commitment for his craft speaks through in his approach to Daffy's voice. While our sources may disagree, Leon Schlesinger still had to approve a cartoon with a lisping character, which may or may not have been based on him. Before showing Leon the new Daffy Duck cartoon, Tex Avery, Chuck Jones, and the other animators drafted their resignation letters in case they were going to be fired. Yeah, you show your boss, hey, look, we're gonna make this cartoon where we're gonna basically be making fun of you. That's a very quick way to get a boot right up you know where. All right. Leon Schlesinger said in small quotes, roll the garbage, and the cartoon played. According to Chuck Jones, quote, then the lights went out and Leon leaped to his feet and glared around. Jesus Christ! That's a funny voice. Where'd you get that voice? Oh boy. Oh boy, he's kind of oblivious to it. Whether Schlesinger took this personally or not, the cartoon was approved Daffy's fun new list, the corporate seal of approval. According to Chuck Jones, what started as poking fun at Leon Schlesinger accidentally led to him being immortalized through Daffy Duck. Unquote. Wherever the voice of the turtle duck is heard throughout the land, Leon is enshrined in the hearts of his countrymen. Unquote. What do you think? Was the voice of Daffy based on Leon Schlesinger, or was it just a creative approach to voice acting? And we again get the whole spiel about watching Bugs Bunny and Friends. All right. So, of course, a friendly reminder: if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, let's move on to the next article here. Let's pull this up, of course. Alan Reed revealed an unaired Flintstone spinoff. Yabba dabba, you have the right to remain silent. Article published April 17th by MeTV Toon staff, which was, of course, yesterday. All right, so the Flintstones had plenty of spinoffs, and even today there are ever-swirling rumors about upcoming spinoffs. It's hard to imagine that there would be any spinoff rejections with a successful franchise empire like the Flintstones. But a recently discovered radio interview reveals there was another unaired chapter in the Caveman Capers. In 1975, Fred Flintstone's voice actor, Alan Reed, this was, of course, 2 years before he passed on, or Harry Corden came in to take over the role, was interviewed by Chuck Shaden for his radio show, Those Were the Days. The interview discussed Reed's acting career in radio, film, and television, so naturally it covered his work on the Flintstones. Reed revealed that at the time of the interview, Hanna-Barbara was shopping around a pilot of a new Flintstone show called Flintstone Fuzz. The new spinoff would be a cop show with Fred and Barney as policemen. Hopeful that the show would be picked up, Reed described it as, quote, it would be a satire of cop shows that are all around, unquote. Now, for those of you who may not know, of course, Fuzz is another kind of term for cop. So, and of course, if those of you might remember some of the Flintstones spinoff, they actually did have a segment on Flintstones Comedy Hour called Bedrock Cop. So they did get their cop show. But I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. But while I'm gone, I'll put some music on to entertain you guys. I'll be right back. I'm back, so let's get back to the article then here. All right, so let's see, where were we here? All right, so while Reed was excited at the prospect of the Flintstone Fuzz, it didn't sell. Still, he went on to do many more Flintstone spin-offs, including Pebbles and Bam Bam Show and Fred Flintstone and Friends. Yeah, I think Fred Flintstone and Friends might have been the last one he did, but imagine Fred and Barney driving a cop car with their feet, or riding a brontosaurus to chase down some prehistorical perps. Would you have watched a Flintstone cop show? Well, the thing is, we did kind of get a Flintstone cop show, though. Granted, came later. I think it was part of the Flintstone Funny series, I believe, or Flintstone Comedy Hour. It was called Bedrock Cops, right? They did actually have that, so it was just part, but it was just part of the Flintstones comedy show instead of being like its own separate show. So, anyways, watch the Flintstones on MeTV Tunes every day at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. All right, so we got through 3 of the 4. Now we have one last article to go through. Another fun one here. One I'm sure some people have probably thought about over the years, wondering why. Why are Hanna-Barbera characters always wearing ties? Bow ties everywhere. Article published April 18th today by MeTV Doom staff. So yeah, you see right there, you see from left to right there, you got Snagglepuss, Yogi, and Boo Boo with the little bow tie, of course. Yogi with the collar and tie there, and then Snagglepuss with a bit of a bow tie and collar himself there. So let's get into this a bit here. Have you ever watched Yogi Bear or Huckleberry or the Huckleberry Hound show and thought, these guys wear a lot of ties? Yogi Bear has a necktie and collar. Boo Boo wears a bow tie. Mr. Jinx has a bow tie. Wally Gator has a collar. Snagglepuss has a tie. And if Huckleberry Hound isn't wearing a bow tie, he is wearing a cape or a scarf. Those necks are covered. But why? Is it a formality thing or a modesty thing? Well, you kind of have to wonder that, because for the most part, these characters never wore any like pants or anything like that. So, granted, not that you really saw any distinguishable genitalia, as it were, but anyways, or perhaps a tie makes a bear feel more human. That's possible. Are they trying to be extra fancy because they're on TV? Why did those guys wear so many ties? The answer is revealed by animator and lead Hanna-Barbera character designer Iwao Takamoto in his memoir, My Life with 1,000 Characters. Takamoto explains, quote, the earliest of the Hanna-Barbera characters, such as Rough and Ready from 1957, Huckleberry Hound 1958, and Yogi Bear, who debuted in 1958, got his own show in 1961, all tended to wear collars and neckties. This was so the head could be easily separated onto its own cell without a seam line. The reason goes back to the Hanna-Barbera developed practice of limited animation or creating shortcuts so that an animator does not have to redraw an entire picture for each frame, in parentheses, which is how early cartoons like Looney Tunes were drawn, unparentheses. This method of having the character's head on a separate cell from the rest of its body allows the animator to not only animate the head when the character is speaking, allows the animator to only animate the head when the character is speaking. Ultimately, the ties gave animators the ability to create cartoons faster, which means more cartoons for us fans. Watch House of Hanna-Barbera on MeTV Tunes weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. Oh, there we go. So the first article kind of went a bit long, and the other three just went boom, boom, boom. So that's how it can go sometimes. So with that being said, of course, now that we're done with that, let's go ahead and get ready to look to the wrestling wrap up. As of course, we have quite a bit to go over there. Real quick, go back to last night. So let's see. How will we do this? All right, I'm going to go ahead and start off with. I'll go ahead and start off with TNA. So on last night's Impact, as I pull this up here, last night's Impact was, of course, the countdown to the Unbreakable pay-per-view that was on the Unbreakable pay-per-view that was on last night's pay-per-view on Thriller TV. So on last night's episode of Impact, Countdown to Unbreakable on Access TV, Matthew Rainwalt and Tom Hannafan did the coverage from the St. Joseph Civic Center Arena in St. Joseph, Missouri. The show opened up with Laredo defeating Jason Haas in a singles match. Zaya Brookside with Lei Ying Lee defeating Jasmine Nix of NXT's Fatal Attraction faction with Fallon Henley and JC Jane in her corner. In an Ultimate X qualifying match, Casey Navarro defeated Cody Deaner. Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley from NXT defeated Heather by Elegance and Maggie Lee with a personal concierge in their corner. Danny Luna, with Jody Threat in her corner, defeated Jakara Jackson of Metaphor with Lash Legend in her corner. In the main event saw Brian Myers defeat Leon Slater in a singles match. Now, also looking to last night's, that was it for Impact. That was, of course, pre-recorded on last night. But from the Cox Pavilion in Las Vegas, Nevada, TNA held its Unbreakable pay-per-view on TNA Plus, with, of course, Matthew Rainwalt, Tom Hannafan, and Sean Merriman on commentary. The show opened up with the second of the three qualifying matches in the international title tournament three-way. This three-way match had Eric Young defeating JDC and Zachary Wentz. And then Steve Macklin advanced to the tournament finals by defeating Ace Austin and Eddie Edwards in a three-way match of his own. As at the end of the night, the main event will see the first TNA International title crowned an international champion crowned in a three-way match between AJ Francis, Eric Young, and Steve Macklin. In a non-title match, Moose of the System, with Alicia Edwards in his corner, defeated the debuting Sidney Hakim, who formerly was known as Scripps in WWE. Mike Santana, ahead of their respective matches coming up at Rebellion a week from Sunday here, Mike Santana and the Hardys defeated Mustafa Ali and the Nemeth brothers. Santana is set to take on Mustafa Ali at Rebellion, and then the Hardys are set to defend the TNA World Tag Team Championships against the Nemeth brothers at Rebellion. Joe Hendry and Masha Slamovich defeated Frankie Kazarian and Tessa Blanchard in a mixed tag match. In a barbed wire massacre match, Sami Callihan defeated Mance Warner. And the first TNA International Champion was crowned in the final three-way match as Steve Macklin defeated AJ Francis and Eric Young. Now, I don't know who took the pin, but whoever. So Steve Macklin will be defending the international title against whoever did not take the pin, because I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, at Rebellion next Sunday. So that's all we got for the Impact side of things. Let's see. Now we're gonna take a look at the Ring of Honor, what's happened with Ring of Honor. So yesterday on YouTube, I believe they had Ring of Honor had recorded back on the 12th an episode this prelude to Spring Breakthrough to air on YouTube. It was held at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Massachusetts, with Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman on commentary. The show saw Top Flight of Darius and Dante Martin, with Layla Gray in their corner, defeat the conglomeration duo of Tomohiro Ishii and Rocky Romero. Shane Taylor of Shane Taylor Promotions with the Infantry in his corner, defeating KM. In a number one contendership match for the Ring of Honor Women's World Television title, La Catalina defeated Taya Valkyrie. And the main event saw Nick Wayne defeating Michael Oakley for yesterday's prelude to Spring Break, which I believe was the lead into, of course, the AEW Collision episode from last night, and we'll get to that in a moment as well. First off, to kind of finish up some of the Ring of Honor news. So now tonight, Ring of Honor will be since they did not do the episode yesterday. Ring of Honor will be doing their Honor Club episode number 112 tonight from the Mass Mutual Center in Boston, in Springfield, Massachusetts. Yeah. On tonight's episode of being aired on ringofhonorwrestling.com, Bandito and Commander team up to face off against the Infantry of Carly Bravo and Sean Dean, with Lee Moriarty and Shane Taylor in their corner, Alex Abramohantes in Bandito and Commander's corner. In a match for the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Championships, Dustin Rhodes teams with the Von Erich brothers, Marshall and Ross Von Erich, the sons of Kevin Von Erich, by the way, to take on Johnny TV and M&M Collection. Sammy Guevara takes on Lee Johnson in a singles match. John Cruz and Rosario Grillo will take on the Dark Order members of Alex Reynolds and Evil Uno. In another six-man tag match, the Frat House of Griff Garrison, Cole Carter, and Preston Vance, with Jack Jameson in their corner, take on three enhancement talents of let's see, T.J. Crawford, Love Doug, and Charles Mason. And in the main event, another 6-man trios tag match. CMLL's Barbaro in a match between 6 members of CMLL. Barbaro Cavernario, Euphoria, and Zandokan Jr. take on Atlantis Jr., Esfinge, and Fuego. Now, with that being said, now let's go back to last night again. This time, we're going to go back to AEW Spring Breakthrough Day 2, AEW Collision, on this special episode of AEW from AEW Collision from the MGM Music Hall at Fenway in Boston, Massachusetts. The opening match saw Kevin Knight defeat Lance Archer in a one-on-one match. The Don Callis family members of Josh Alexander, the newly joined Josh Alexander and Konosuke Takeshita, defeating conglomerations Tomohiro Ishii and Rocky Romero. And I think I did hear something that Rocky turned heel here. Might have turned on Ishii to join Don Callis family, but I'm not 100% sure. I did see a headline that they said he turned heel. Megan Bain, in a 2-on-1 handicap match, defeated Ashley Vox and Rebecca Scott. Adam Cole successfully defended the TNT title against the Death Riders' Claudio Castagnoli. In a 6-man tag match, Los Faction Ingobernables of Duelistico Rush and the Beast Mortos defeated KM, LSG, and Rosario Grillo. And in a match for the Ring of Honor World Television title, Nick Wayne defeated Commander to become the new television champion. And the main event saw, in a women's tag team match, Julia Hart, former TBS champions Julia Hart and Chris Statlander defeated Harley Cameron and current TBS champion Mercedes Moné. So that's all we have for the AEW news. Now to look ahead to... bye-bye, everybody. All right, so sorry to see you go early here, but anyway, so now let's go ahead and talk about WWE, as WWE this weekend has quite a bit going on. As on tonight's SmackDown, the go home SmackDown before WrestleMania. On tonight's SmackDown event, let's get there. Of course, tonight's SmackDown will air on USA from the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada. Opening match will see a 6-woman tag match as former WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Kaden Carter and Katana Chance team with Zelina Vega to take on the Green Regime of WWE Women's United States Champion Chelsea Green and her secret Herverse of Alba Fire and Piper Niven. In a match for the WWE Tag Team titles, the Street Profits of Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford take on the Motor City Machine Guns of Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, and the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal for 2025 will be taking place on SmackDown as well tonight. So we'll see who ends up on there. Now, with that being said, of course, WWE's got quite a bit going on this weekend. As first off, for tomorrow, WWE will be having their Stand and Deliver pay-per-view. But before that, they'll be having the pre-show countdown to Stand and Deliver on, I believe, on YouTube. Let me just see here. Yeah, on YouTube. The countdown to Stand, which we'll see in a number one contendership fatal four-way elimination match for the WWE Women's Tag Team title. Gigi Dolan, Tatum Paxley will take on Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. They'll also take on Metaphor of Shakara Jackson, Lash Legend, as well as Fatal Influences, Val Henley, and JC Jane. That's on the pre-show, the countdown show to the countdown to Stand and Deliver. Following that, WWE NXT will have its Stand and Deliver pay-per-view, which we'll see in a ladder match for the vacant NXT Women's North American Championship. You'll see Izzy Dame versus Zarya versus Thea Hall versus Sol Ruka, who recently won the Women's Speed Championship, versus Lola Vice versus Kalani Jordan. Ricky Saints defends the WWE NXT North American title against Ethan Page. Fraxium will defend the WWE NXT Tag Team titles against Hank and Tank. In a six-man tag match, the D'Angelo family of Tony D'Angelo and Luca Crusafino and Channing Lorenzo will be taking on Dark State members. Three of the four here of Cutler, James, Dion Lennox, Osiris Griffin, and Saquon Sugars, but the actual threesome has not been determined yet. In a fatal four-way match for the NXT Women's title, Genevieve Kerr defends against former champ Julia, as well as Jordan Grace and Jada Parker. In a triple threat match for the NXT title, Oba Femi defends against former champ Trick Williams and Javon Evans. Now, moving on, of course, to the WrestleMania cards. On tomorrow's card, Saturday's card, from the Allegiant Stadium in Paradise. Tomorrow we'll see Gunther defend the WWE World Heavyweight title against this year's Men's Royal Rumble winner, Jey Uso. The War Raiders defend the WWE World Tag Team titles against the New Day. Eric and Ivar defend against Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Rey Mysterio takes on El Grande Americano. In the first ever singles women's match that does not involve a title or a gimmick, Naomi will be taking on Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill looks to get some revenge on Naomi for putting her out for 2 months. In a match for the WWE United States title, LA Knight defends the title against Jacob Fatu. Tiffany Stratton is set to defend the WWE Women's title against Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair looks to become a 16-time Women's World Champion. And the main event will see CM Punk, the triple threat match between CM Punk, who will have Paul Heyman in his corner, Seth Rollins, versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. So that's tomorrow. So now looking ahead to Sunday's card for WrestleMania. On Sunday, on Netflix, from the Allegiant Stadium in Paradise, Arizona, the WWE Women's World title match will take place as a triple threat as Io Sky defends the Women's World title against both Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. WWE Women's Tag Team title match will be happening as Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day take on Bayley and current WWE Women's Intercontinental title holder Lyra Valkyria. In a Sin City street fight, Drew McIntyre will be taking on Damian Priest. AJ Styles is set to take on Logan Paul in a singles match. In a fatal four-way for the WWE Intercontinental title, Braun Breaker defends the title against Finn Balor, Penta, and Dominic Mysterio. In a match for the WWE Undisputed title, the WWE and WWE Universal titles, Cody Rhodes will be taking on John Cena. So it would appear that they have not been able to find an opponent for Randy Orton, but that could change at some point over the weekend there. So now that we got you all caught up on what to look forward to on the wrestling side of things, now we'll get ready to, of course, now with today being Friday, April the 18th, 2020, 2025, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So 2001, 2010, 2010, and 1985. All right. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 40 years ago today. As on this date, 40 years ago today, Aiken's Musashi no Ken, translated as Musashi's Sword, premiered on TV Tokyo on this date back in 1985. So 40 years ago today, Musashi no Ken from Aiken premiered on TV Tokyo on this date back in 1985, 40 years ago today. So it was based on a sports manga series written and illustrated by Motoka Murakami. That focuses on the sport of kendo. Kendo, for those of you who may not know, kendo is basically a sword fighting sport where they use where they use basically bamboo sticks as swords. So, 40 years ago today, Musashi no Ken premiered on TV Tokyo. Now, moving ahead to 2001, on this date in 2001, which was, of course, 24 years ago today, the 30th issue of Volume 1 of 30th issue of Birds of Prey went on sale on this date back in 2001. It sold for $250 with 32 pages. Part of the Final Battle storyline. Time and Time Again. Written by Chuck Dixon with art by Jackson Guise. Lettered by Albert Tobias de Guzman, and Shannon Blanchard did the coloring. So on this date, 24 years ago today, the 30th issue of Birds of Prey went on sale on this date back in 2001. Now, moving ahead to 2010. On this date in 2010, from the Family Arena in St. Charles, Missouri, TNA held its 6th annual Lockdown pay-per-view on this date back in 2010. Let's see. The main event of the show saw Team Hogan, who was captained by Abyss, along with Jeff Jarrett, Jeff Hardy, and Rob Van Dam, defeat Team Flair, captained by Sting, and also had Beer Money Inc. of Robert Roode and James Storm, along with Desmond Wolfe, in a lethal lockdown. If Team Flair won, Hulk Hogan would leave the company. Of course, that didn't happen. So, Kurt Angle defeated Mr. Anderson in an escape steel cage match. Let's see. Team 3D of Brother Ray and Brother Devon defeated the Band, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, in a St. Louis street fight steel cage match. Lockdown match. Okay, so the Lockdown pay-per-view basically had a pay-per-view where every match was a cage match. So, just so we got that cleared up. Kazarian defeated Shannon Moore and Homicide in a steel cage match for the TNA X Division Championship. In a match for the TNA Women's Knockout Championship and Knockout Tag Team Championship. The beautiful people of Madison Ray and Velvet Sky with Lacey Von Erich defeated Knockout champion Angelina Love and Tara via pinfall by Madison Rain, who became the new Knockout champion in a steel cage match. Kevin Nash wrestled twice that night, defeated Eric Young in a steel cage match. In a escape match for the TNA X Division title, Homicide defeat, which I guess got him a shot at the No, they had two X Division title matches, I guess. Homicide defeated Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Ron Kendrick. And Rob Van Dam defeated James Storm in a steel cage match for the numbers advantage of Lethal Lockdown. And that all happened. And 2010 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. As also on this date in 2010, let's see. Voice actor Alan Swift passed away at the age of 86. He was known as the voice of Simon Bar Sinister and Riff Raff and Underdog. He was the third voice of Mighty Mouse. He also did some voice work for MGM on some Tom and Jerry cartoons. So Alan Swift, voice actor, passed away at the age of 86. So there you have it, folks. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here on Sunday. As the Metal will be joining me, as we'll be taking another trip down Comics History Lane, as we'll be taking a look back to we'll be continuing our look at May of 1940, focusing in on David McKay and David McKay Publications and Eastern Color. We'll of course be going over a little bit, going over some summary work from Future Comics #1 and Ace Comics #40 from David McKay, and then heading over to Regular Fellers Heroic Comics #1 from Eastern Color. We'll be reading out of that book mostly. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday. Bye.